So this week, chapter 3 covers verbal communication. Before I go on, I'm a big believer of quotes. You'll see them every week on my announcements. So good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity, and even more so when you're dealing with customers. To make sure what you're communicating is clear will enable you to build relationships with client if you're asking the right questions, and it will avoid any confusion and it'll install confidence in your customers. So there are two types of communication, verbal and non-verbal. And in a nutshell, verbal is what you say and non-verbal is how you say it. So verbal is, you know, the words and the messaging that you are trying to get across to someone, whereas non-verbal is how you're saying it, what your body language is like, and these two really need to coincide with one another, because if they don't, someone gets mixed messaging. And to be quite frank, non-verbal communication can be more powerful than verbal communication. So if you're saying one thing but your body is demonstrating another thing, again, confusion to the receiver. So why is effective communication important? Well, it really allows you to exchange information and convey your knowledge. It allows you to, tell your customer what you're selling, why they should be buying it, talk about the products and features of the product or service. And it also allows you to understand what the customer wants. Asking the customer the correct question ensures that you're providing what they want. And this is really the only way that organizations have been able to move forward. That's why often in retail, organizations try so hard to get your feedback because they really want to improve on themselves, and they ask several questions so they can really kind of narrow down areas that they can improve and really meet the needs and wants of customers. And effective communication also allows you to take control of the situation. When you're dealing with customers, you don't necessarily know their emotional state, and especially if there's an issue or they're upset or they felt their needs haven't been met. So by being able to communicate effectively, you can take control of the situation by understanding, first of all, being empathetic, but also trying to understand what it is they need and how to satisfy and meet their needs. And, sometimes if communication is not effective, it's sometimes better to be quiet than to not communicate, than to communicate in a poor manner. Several elements for effective communication. One is recognize how you communicate. So be mindful of how you communicate. If you, try and avoid ums, which I know is hard because I do that, and, try and make sure you stay positive and, that your body language mimics what you're saying, but also to understand the process of how communication works. There is one-way communication and two-way. One way is when messaging is just going one way and it doesn't allow for the recipient to communicate back, which is what two-way communication is, which is when the recipient can participate. So this is how the model of how the process works, and you'll see that the sender will encode the message. So in their mind, they're putting together the message that they want to convey to the receiver. The receiver then decodes it, but it may not exactly be what the sender was meant to send. So they may ask for feedback, or they may acknowledge if they have understood it, or they may ask questions. I'm not sure what you're asking of me, or can you provide further clarification, please? And so you'll see that this model demonstrates the process. And then, the channel can be virtual, or it can be face-to-face or over the phone. And then noise and environment can also play a role as well. For example, it wouldn't be great to conduct a job interview in a crowded cafeteria. It'd be very distracting for everybody. So, in terms of effective communication, some of the ways you can improve is really think before you speak. Be mindful of how you sound, pay attention to where you're looking, make sure you're listening properly, and speak with confidence, and understand your audience, and pay attention to your body language, and most of all, be authentic and be genuine, because we're all customers and we can tell when a customer service provider doesn't care and is not, doesn't have your best interests at heart. So as a customer service provider, you really do need to demonstrate that. And also, you know, make sure you're focusing on positive communication rather than negative. So for example, instead of saying, I'm not sure or I don't know, you could say, you know, I'm sorry, I don't know at the moment, but I'm certainly will find out for you and I'll get the information to you by 5 o'clock today. So again, there's always ways of you know, turning things into positive communication. So you know, things to be mindful of. I've just covered some of the concepts in chapter 3. I also have posted a video that really demonstrates the difference between good and bad verbal communication. I'm also a big believer in TED Talks. I hope all of you you know what TED Talks is all about. And I've also posted a link to 10 ways to have a better conversation, which I think is a very beneficial. Just quickly, the homework for this week is complete the video reflection number 3, which is due on Sunday. Same with the reflection exercise on customer expectations. It's fairly straightforward, which is also due on Sunday. And then we'll be covering chapter 4 next week. And don't forget to join me on Thursday at noon for the drop-in session if you have any questions or would like to discuss anything further in regards to this topic or anything else regarding to customer relations. Great, thank you and have a great week.